WYOO, Panama City, a Magic Broadcasting radio station. 101.1 FM.
We must stand up every day and catch the stories that others might miss.
And online with breaking news for Panama City.
There is a lot of that. You have the truth on your side.
This is NewsTalk at 101. Really refreshing.
Isn't it, though? Welcome to hour number 2 of the Kramer Show. Today, September 26th, 7:05. Scott Mager from Mager Peruis and the Storm Help Team joins us today, as he has every Tuesday and Thursday for the past, 11 months? Scott Mager, what is going on with you, my friend?
How are you doing today, pal?
I'm doing well. Sounds like you might be on the road. You doing a little cruising?
At the present moment.
Look, we'll get to, as we always do, such an amazing news day yesterday, mind-blowing events.
Oh, wow.
So I wanted to get your take and kind of unpack that to begin with, because you always have such a wonderful way of looking at things. But before I get to that, I want to say Scott Mager has been with us for damn near, 11 months? I mean, we're coming up on the one-year anniversary of Hurricane Michael. And he has been ultra dedicated to being on the show, to being a partner with our radio station, with other things, coming to town and sharing his knowledge. And he's been he does that selfishly, if that's a word. And I just wanted to say thank you for being on and hanging in there through this whole period of time. And I have heard from so many people. Sorry, I'm not done with the ass kissing. I've heard from so many people that have called Scott, and Scott has reached out back to them and helped them through stuff. And so anyway, I just want to say thank you. But I do want to get your thoughts on all of this stuff that's going on. I read the transcripts. I was just talking about it last hour. I don't really see anything egregious. On a scale of 1 to 10, how egregious would you say is the information contained therein of that transcription?
Well, first, thanks very much for the kind words. I really do care about our citizenry and trying to make a difference in this world. With regard to the seriousness, 10 being very serious and 1 being, not serious, I would say it's a 0. It is yet another attempt, unfortunately, to, just impeach the president. To the haters, people hate, Trump more than they love this country. And it's just so sad, because I still don't believe that this represents the majority of the Democratic Party. I mean, I really think you have a lot of loud people who are far, far left, that are out of touch with reality, that are so desperate that they'll do anything to unseat the president. And it's unfortunate that they're not focusing on the issues, and they're not trying to espouse positions which would be, in their mind, positions that would help them to elect a viable candidate. What is their position on bettering our economy? What is their position on improving health care? What is their position on improving our infrastructure? What is their position on reducing crime in some of the most rampant areas, especially the democratically held areas? What is their position on homelessness and how they would cure the problem of homelessness, particularly in some of the very democratic areas? I think that you would find that most wealthy Democrats would not be very, very happy about wealth taxes and taxing them more because they happen to have been more successful. All of these things should be issues that you and I should be discussing and determining whether or not, we feel like their position is strong or not, and not debating whether or not some particular word that the president said can be contorted or prostituted into some sort of, rallying cry for the radicals. And I'll tell you what's tragic about this, and truly tragic, is that who this is going to hurt the most is Biden. It's not going to hurt Trump that much. But what it's going to do is call more attention to Biden. And if they're trying to get rid of him, if they're trying to offload him, well, this is a great strategy because all it does is call more attention to this. Because if you're going to impeach on this basis or even investigate, and by the way, there will be no impeachment on this basis, but if you are going to try to do this, what's going to happen is you're going to center it around, well, what was he talking about? Well, he was talking about something that Biden and his son, or in this case his son, was involved with. So it makes no sense. It's such suicide in my mind for the Democrats to do this, but in a bigger way, in a much more substantial way. Again, we should be talking about the issues of our time. We should be encouraging discourse and intellectual discussion on the issues that we think will help us, and not trying to do everything we can to ruin someone's life, even if it means the decimation of our own party, which is just crazy. And I'll tell you, there's no way they're going to impeach the president on this. Just so everybody knows, just so all the listeners know, there is no impeachment proceeding going on. It's just a bunch of rhetoric, a bunch of words that they say. In order to start a, quote, impeachment, you have to have the entire House vote. And my feeling about this is very simple. If you believe that the president should be impeached, then the entire House should vote. That's what you have to do in order to start an impeachment process. The first legal requirement, the first requirement you must do is that the entire House must vote in order to start that process. Anything else is just a bunch of empty words used to confuse and delude the public. It's not anything to do with impeachment until the House votes as a whole. Now you ask yourself, well, why don't the Pelosi's and Nadlers and Schiffs of the world get a vote? It's because they know they can't get enough votes. Otherwise, they would have voted already. And I keep saying, if you really believe that the president should be impeached, that he's committed the only thing you can impeach him for, high crimes and treason, then what you need to do is have a House vote to start the impeachment process. And if not, you should shut up. Because all the other statements are just that. They're just political garbage that's designed to dupe the public into thinking there's some sort of impeachment when there isn't, in order to make people have doubt about the president. And whether this goes any further, or what, today they're going to release the complaint, and whether they release it or not, remember, you can't have a whistleblower complaint against the president. He's not an employer of the intel community. But even if you did, you're going to find another, as the Republicans say, nothing burger.
Can I ask you this?
It's insane.
I was talking about this, and by the way, I concur that the Democrats are so wrapped up in stuff like this. To me, it would seem almost detrimental for them to ever get back into office anytime, soon, because this is such an overreach. It's such an overreaction. And when that came out yesterday, I read it, and I just sat there. How are they interpreting this one way, and the Republicans are interpreting it such an entirely different way? Let me ask you this. Now, this is, to me, the $1 million question, and this is a general question, but I'm going to point it specifically to this case. But it's a law question for an experienced attorney like you to answer. Why is it that this boils down to interpretation? Because the law, as I see it, is black and white. There is no gray area. Most of the time, I can't really say that, well, that's up to interpretation. No, the law says what the law says. If that's the case, then why is it in this particular instant, Why is it up to interpretation? Because if you leave it up to interpretation, if you're swayed a political way, you can bend things to help your interpretation of the way things look. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Of course, and there is no interpretation here. It is black and white. What he said is not a crime. Now, the only reason why you have pundits saying this is because they have to prostitute the truth into something false to keep their narrative going. It is not a crime. Period. End of report. And so the only way for them to contort this into something, because this is the flavor of the month, is to turn this into something that it's not. And that's just the truth. And that is why there is a zero chance of this being the basis for impeachment. It would be legally impossible to impeach this president on that basis. But again, it doesn't matter what the truth is. In the Democratic mind, and I'm not going to group everyone, in these radical Democrats' mind, it's all about hating Trump. And whatever they need to do. Listen, Nancy Pelosi got up and said the president should be impeached based on evidence she didn't have. She lied to the American public and made false statements and shouldn't even be in power when you make statements that are false. She hadn't even seen the actual transcript. And so all I can tell you is whether you are for Democrats or not, I have Democratic views as well as Republican views. The bottom line is, the truth is the truth. And people should stop making up lies and promoting our youth to lie to get what you want and start talking about the real facts. And if you don't have the facts, don't make up lies. Talk about something else that's valuable. There are loads of issues for the Democratic Party or the independents to talk about that we can have intelligent discussions about. What should we do about the rising cost of health care? How should we reduce crime in Chicago and some of these areas? How do we get people off the streets in San Francisco and some of these horrible places? How do we clean up the smells in New York? I mean, there are really good issues, infrastructure, national security. We could have smart debates for people on both sides instead of this absolute gutter talk nonsense that is going on that does nothing but continue to polarize people and doesn't even truly represent the majority of the Democrats who are hiding in the closet right now because they're afraid to come out and speak their piece, because if they did, it would be completely against NADLA, completely against Schiff, and completely against AOC. And everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. And again, you have Democrats espousing giant wealth taxes. Have you heard any rich Democrat get up on television and say, I'm happy to pay that tax, and in fact, right now I'm making that contribution in advance to show you that I believe in what they believe? Of course not. And that's really what we need to educate the American people, and especially youth, about. These are not true statements. Get the facts, and then make an intelligent decision about whether you believe in a particular Republican or Democratic view. And I think people need to get away from being political and get more towards being valuable, looking at values and morals and what we're trying to do to better our country, and stop being polarized puppets for radical people who just want to say things because they think they'll get your vote. They just want to say, I'm going to give you free education for your entire life, even though they know it is absolutely impossible to pay for that, because they know that the youth will say, great, I want free education. That's wonderful. Go read any book you want on socialism, and you'll see it has never succeeded in any country with any relative happiness. So the bottom line is, all we can do is cry as loud as we can, or speak as loud as we can, that we just want people to have smart and moral discourse, and not polarizing, lying, manipulative, name-calling nonsense that does nothing but divide us. There's ways to bring us together, even though we have different views. There's ways to bring us together, even though we may feel differently, but be strong about issues. We can have discourse about whether you believe in life or pro-abortion or anti-abortion without name-calling. You can solve homelessness without name-calling. And I think that's one of the biggest problems we have, is that we need to educate people as much as we possibly can so that the public understands exactly what needs to happen in terms of intelligent and smart discourse. And that's what your listeners should be talking about and telling their friends and neighbors and fellow Democrats.
Scott Mager, 850-233-9988. I don't know if you saw I got to take a break here, but there was a little bit of a blurb with Judge Napolitano on Fox News, and I'll get his take on what Judge Napolitano said. And more coming up. Scott Mager from Major Peruis and the Storm Help Team.
Kramer will be right back on NewsTalk at 101. NewsTalk at 101 and Kramer. Live and local in the mornings.
724, Scott Mager with us. All this news about the impeachment inquiry, the phone call between Trump and Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, just coming to, it's crescendoed yesterday, and there's going to be even more of it today. Supposedly, Scott, they're going to have the complaint released at some point today. And then that'll just be more for the Democrats to pound on. One of the reasons why I asked you about interpretation versus what the law actually says, one of the reasons is because I played a clip, and it was a clip of Judge Napolitano on with Shep Smith on Fox News. And Shepard Smith asked him what he felt about what Donald Trump had said publicly about Ukraine, and Napolitano said that was enough. What Donald Trump said about it was enough to impeach him, and that it was against the law. It was illegal for him to have said that, to have done it. And then you have another set of lawyers who absolutely 100% disagree. I just don't know how you can look at something that someone says, the phone call transcript, etc., and conclude as an attorney, as a judge, whatever, that it's illegal under federal law. And then, like I said, the other subset of lawyers say absolutely not. It's not interpretation. As far as I listen to guys like you, it's not interpretation. It says what it says. It is or is not illegal. What am I missing?
You're not missing anything. It is not a crime. There is no chance of it being a crime. There is no chance of it being a crime and causing his impeachment. Absolutely not. And I challenge anybody to be able to show me in the law where it's even remotely capable of being a crime. And then if it was a crime, that Trump could be impeached on it. It's just, again, it's a silly narrative that is the flavor of the day. And it's unfortunate that Judge Napolitano is now unhappy with the president because apparently the president didn't give him some judgeship.
Right.
Or according to whatever was said, and now he's angry at him. But the reality is that you're not going to have this result in an impeachment. And I think that what you're seeing is a master play by the Trump people, particularly Trump, in letting this out and having people focus on this. Again, every day that people focus on Trump does two things. Gives him press constantly and stops the Democrats from talking about things which would actually be of interest to us and would make us want to vote for them. So I can tell you that this nonsense is going nowhere, and if Pelosi decides to announce a formal impeachment inquiry, it won't matter until they actually vote. Just make sure the listeners understand that you have to have the entire House vote on whether or not an impeachment process should begin. Anything else, calling it an inquiry, calling it an impeachment investigation, that's just fake words. Let me repeat, fake words that mean absolutely nothing. And if you think that this kind of statement with the president is going to be the grounds for a crime and the grounds for impeachment, you're out of your mind. But here's what's more significant about this, and this is what people should be really upset about. The idea that you're exposing this makes us a less secure country, because what you're doing is telling every foreign leader that we're listening to you, we're typing out your words, and we might disseminate them to people. What foreign leader would ever want to speak if he knew that was occurring? To this date, until this came out, 99.9% of the public, maybe 100%, didn't know this is the way things happen. Had no idea that people were typing out things. Had no idea this was going on. Imagine how much less safe we are making this country when we do this. If you have a problem with something that the president says with a foreign leader, you have secret meetings behind closed doors outside of the American public, and you determine what you need to do. But if you are a foreign leader, would you ever say anything to the president again? So this nonsense has done such damage to our intelligence that it is a tragedy. And I think it keeps boding well for us, you and I who are trying to be civil, who are saying it's okay if you disagree with some position that we have. Let's talk about the issues. Let's not talk about how much we hate someone and we're willing to throw away our country in order to get him. And I just think that's the horrible thing about this whole situation, is that there's so much focus on this. And by the way, it's driven by media and it's driven by a few people. I don't think all the Democrats feel this way. Okay, in fact, I think if you talk to most Democrats, they'll admit to you they're very happy that the stock market's up. They're very happy that the 401ks are in better position. They're very happy that we haven't been bombed by some foreign country or there hasn't been a giant terrorist attack. They're very happy that crime is down in their areas. They're very happy that there's lower Hispanic unemployment, lower African American unemployment. Okay, they're happy about that. They don't want that to stop. So I just think that better discourse and spending less time listening and buying this nonsense because they just say it is really not. It's really going to be a great thing for people to start to understand. And I think you'll see this sort of fall away. You're going to see a new issue come up when this is done. There'll be a new flavor after this gets done.
Oh, absolutely.
They're not talking about the border right now.
Oh,
they're
my
not
God.
talking about caging kids, are they?
No.
They're not talking about the Russia collusion, are they?
No, that's done and gone.
So
and you're right. There will be another. There'll be something else. I mean, and it will fade away. I mean, this is not good. Look, this is not going to be something that we're beating. They're not going to be kicking the Ukraine stuff down the road in 6 months. Nobody will be talking about it. It'll be just like Russian collusion. If you want to get in touch with Scott off the air, their office phone number 844-800-LAWS, 844-800-LAWS. We got Scott Mager from Mager Peruis and the Storm Help Team. He's here to talk to you about post-Michael hurricane recovery. Could not let up an opportunity to talk to him about this crap that's been in the news cycle for 48 hours. We'll talk about hurricane and legal stuff next with Scott Mager.
This is the Kramer Show on the Good Old Boy Network. News Talk at 101. We're back. This is the Kramer Show on News Talk at 101.
737. Scott Mager from Mager Peruis and the Storm Help Team with us on the phone today. Over the past 11 months, talking to people that live here, not just here, but anywhere in the area, hearing the horror stories of people trying to rebuild their homes, sitting here taking phone calls, taking phone calls off the air, getting text messages, getting emails, getting Facebook messages from people. Every single day, I hear horror stories about people that are trying to put their lives back together. And not only doing that, but they're also trying to stay in the area. You know, we have a census that's coming up in February. And our city politicians are fearful of what that's going to say. And then we look back and see what happened with the hurricane and how many people have left the area. A, and then B, people that are trying to stay here and still live here and trying to rebuild their lives and are sacrificing so much in order to do so. You have people that have not been fully repaid or paid from the insurance companies, people that have had to move away, people that are living in campers, and people that are living in tents. And not to be an alarmist or be an extremist, because we're alive, we're well, we've handled this really well. A lot of people are very, very strong. This is a great community, and it says a lot about our community as to how we've reacted since then. The one thing that keeps coming up, and the common thread of people, is the insurance companies. And we talk about that often, but it seems to be that a lot of people have had maybe a partial payment from the insurance company, and they're deadlocked. That's where we are. If you had to, if like my mom will call me and she'll say, "How are things? Where are you? Where's the city?" and all that, and I'll say, "Well, the city is trying. We've got businesses that are reopening, but we also have a lot of businesses that have not reopened. A lot of people that haven't been paid from the insurance company, but we're at a deadlock area within the insurance company because there's a lot of people that have their hand out, and the insurance company are ignoring them."
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I think that the problem we're having is that many people still have not gotten the right lawyer involved or gotten a lawyer involved. And so, it's unfortunate that this has occurred, but the bottom line is that, people need to avail themselves of the best lawyer they can find to help them and at least educate them and at most represent them, because that's the only way you're going to see payment. It's the only way you're going to see payment. And you and I have talked about this for quite some time. The reality is that we are not able to help people unless they reach out to us and understand that it's very, very important. They need to get good intelligence so they understand why they're not being paid, and also to educate themselves so they can make the appropriate report to the state if they're not being treated appropriately. Because if you don't make a claim to the court, to the state, if you don't report them to the state and you don't have a lawyer, what is the motivation for the insurance company who hasn't paid you in 11 months or a year or longer to pay you? The only way to do that is to create some sort of buffer, some sort of way that you can say, "Hey, I need to make sure I'm getting paid." If in fact you do that, you are very, very likely to get a good result that's going to be favorable to you. And those people who have gotten some payment, don't give up. Go back and get the rest of your money. Retain a lawyer and get some education. I keep saying this on the radio, but we get calls virtually every day from insurance carriers or their lawyers saying, "What is your number? Stop suing. Tell us what you're owed." And as sad as that is on the one hand, that they didn't do that 9 months ago, but as wonderful as it is on the other, that they're recognizing they have a cost and they want to hurry up and get this resolved, shows you need to get to the right lawyers to help you.
And it's not as intimidating of a process as you may think. And we've talked about that before, but I always think that it's good to mention that a lot of people have never had to use an attorney. I mean, just, and God bless you if you've never had to use an attorney. But it's not as intimidating as you may think. All it takes is a call, and not to sound like an advertisement, but 844-800-LAWS. That's the number you can get in touch with Scott Mager, his crew, and they'll pass along the message, and Scott will see it. 844-800-LAWS. 844-800-LAWS. And it could be about anything, really. It's not about just insurance, but there are other issues that people are having. I mean, people with contractors, people, that have a lot of different, moving parts of it. Being able to pass that off and just say, Mr. Mager, please, here's my insurance policy. This is the contract. This is what they've done. This is my contact information. Here's what I've said. Here's what they've said. Please handle it. Just handle it, Mr. Mager. Handle it. That to me would be an unbelievable pressure relief.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I'll tell you that just most people just don't realize what the power of a great attorney can do to their lives, and how it can help them, to really move forward in their emotional, physical, and financial well-being. And, we've talked about this since the beginning, how important it is to get the right attorney and get the right person involved. And a lot of people are even still with adjusters. And while we respect and like some of the adjusters, the reality is if you still haven't been paid, what is the incentive for the insurance company to pay your adjuster when there is no downside to not paying them? None.
Caller, you're up with Mr. Scott Mager. Hello, caller. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Mager, morning.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Hope you're well.
Thanks a lot.
My question is this, because I don't believe it's been addressed. There are a lot of homes on the poorer side of Panama City, Callaway, all that area, Millville, Springville, Parker, were rent-to-own or handshake deals. And the person purchasing said home would not receive title or deed to the building or mobile home, even after it's paid off, but are the tax benefits. But if these people kept a little bit of insurance on that home, plus the original property owner kept insurance on it, because none of this would have been recorded, how much of a problem would that cause with the insurance company as to who actually gets paid for the damage?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't understand the question. I apologize.
No problem. If I have a home and I don't want to go to a bank, and I have people that come in, want to buy it, they say put down, say, $2,000 just for a figure, and their payments are $500 a month, and they just rent to own, and they are required to keep a little bit of insurance on it, because that's what the property owner would tell them. But you can't get the tax benefits. You can't get, nothing's recorded. The property owner gets all the tax benefits, keeps the deed, and they keep a little bit of insurance on this building. You'd have two people claiming title to the same building with two different insurance policies. That would cause a problem, wouldn't it?
It could. It's an unusual situation, but it could. But the first insurance that's going to pay is on the property, and that is the owner of the property who has an insured interest. But if there is a renter or a rent-to-buy on the property, they'll be treated as a renter until they're an owner. And so it actually may impact the owner's insurance, because if the owner's not living on the property, they're going to have some problems with disclosures and with maybe misrepresentations in securing the insurance policy in the first place if they did not inform the insurance company that they were not living on the property. So there's a lot of legal issues that would come up in those situations that really can't be addressed just in this phone call. We need an hour to do it. But if anybody has that situation, if you call me, I can take you through it.
Well, I remember Mayor Brudnicki in one of his talks. He had talked about that was causing a lot of problems on this side of town. And nobody has I've never heard the question asked about the insurance companies, how they would decide to pay it off, and you just answered it. Anyway, Thank you, Mr. Mager. I greatly appreciate it.
Have a great day. Thanks so much for the call. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that would be an unusual situation. It's kind of weird.
It is weird, but just think about it. If you told the insurance company you were living there, and then you got insurance for that, and then you're not living there, you've made a misrepresentation on your policy. You may have some problems with that, or you should be disclosing to your insurance company somebody else is living there. But there's a lot of issues you and I could spend an hour talking about on that scenario if that is really occurring.
Phone number is 850-233-9988. 850-233-9988 to get on the air and ask Scott Mager a question. If you've got something involving post-Hurricane Michael that you're going through, you got the man on the phone that can deliver those answers that you need. 850-233-9988. More with Scott coming up.
This is the Kramer Show. Kramer Show. More to come on NewsTalk at 101. Wake up to the news that affects you.
This has to be a wake-up call.
The Kramer Show. NewsTalk at 101.
Scott Mager with us, as he is every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 to 8. 850-233-9988. If you want to ask Scott Mager a question. Eugene, thank you for calling in. You're up with Mr. Mager. Hello.
Hey, Mr. Mager. I just wanted to know, it's been a year. I got a public adjuster, and I still I got enough money to put my roof on. And they owe me $116,000 more to finish up my house. I got the loan, where you replace your windows for new codes and all that, but they ain't even putting that in there. If I pay a public adjuster 10% and a lawyer 10%, I still might not have enough money to pay for my house.
Well, that could be true. If you were to hire a lawyer right now, for example, and you were owed some more money, and we were to file a lawsuit on your behalf, what we would try to do is we would try to get as much money as we can for you and get the insurance company to pay as much of the attorney's fees as possible so that you had a very low out-of-pocket to us. In some cases, not all, but in some cases, we're able to get all the money paid and then you get made whole. But what we try to do is we try to show the insurance company that they need to pay you every dollar that's owed, and we either get you more money, which covers your attorney's fees, or we get you sufficient money and then ask the insurance company to make sure that they pay our attorney's fees. So you can't do that with a public adjuster because the public adjuster can't recover his fee unless technically a lawyer had hired him in litigation. But my recommendation to you is if you've not been paid your full amount of money, you would be wise to get a lawyer involved to try to help you.
Yes, I'm going to get you as my lawyer, but I'm still paying my insurance. For 14 years, I've never missed a payment, never been late. But now, they ain't even paid me all my money, and my dang insurance has went up. But I still ain't missed a payment.
Yeah, and that's one of the great arguments we make for people, is that we explain that there is no doubt that you have been honorable during your entire time period of over a decade, 14 years. They ought to be the same thing for you, and they ought to timely pay, or there should be
lost all my respect
a penalty
for the insurance company.
And you say your insurance went up too?
Yes, my insurance went up, so I've lost all respect for any insurance company out there. It's just like you pay them, but when it comes time for them to pay you, oh hell, it's like crickets then.
It really is unfortunate, and I'll tell you, in terms of your insurance policy, you might be well served to get some other quotes, and if you want, you can call our office, 844-800-LAWS, 844-800-LAWS, and we can refer you to several agents, if you're interested, who can quote you various prices to see whether or not they can use the fact that you've now rebuilt and your house is in better condition than before in order to lower your rate instead of have it raised. Just a thought.
Eugene, get that number, 844-800-LAWS. Caller, you're up with Scott Mager. Go ahead.
Hey, I was calling about, because, my insurance ain't paid me nothing. And I done completely fixed my whole house out of my own pocket. I live in St. Joe Beach. And every time I send in stuff to them, they send me something back saying I need to send this thing. Basically, the same stuff just over and over again in a circle, and I'm just tired of dealing with them.
Yeah, I highly recommend that you get a lawyer to look at your damage in your insurance policy and to have the insurance company compensate you fully for every item that is covered.
Is that you?
Yeah, I would recommend me. But even if you don't come to us, you'll get a good education.
Well, I'm with you. I'm down to go with you.
844-800-LAWS.
What's the number?
It's 844-800-LAWS.
800-LAWS.
844-800-LAWS.
800.
844-800-LAWS. Laws, as in criminal law, LAWS.
Okay.
Yeah, make sure to call him. And here in just a second, he'll be off the air too. So you can call their office, 844-800-LAWS. Well, we got you 2 clients already today. I mean, boom, right there. But I mean, it's just that's how people feel. They feel really disgruntled because they respect the idea. And I don't think a lot of people even knew until this storm that this is the way that insurance companies work. And you always hear like insurance companies are always slow, and that's one thing. But my God, a year? I mean, that's pretty unbelievable.
Yep.
844-800-LAWS. And two, it's not just about insurance companies and the insurance companies being late, but it's also about contractors and things like that. We've heard a lot of horror stories about that on that end as well. What do you find works quicker, dealing with the insurance companies, people having insurance problems, or people that are having tit for tat with contractors and that?
Well, I think the most important thing is to get the money in that. So I think the most common problem is associated with getting full payment from the insurance companies. In terms of dealing with vendors, the best way to deal with vendors is if they're not performing, to put them on notice by writing them and explaining what they have not done. You haven't been out to my property in X number of days, or your contract requires you to finish and you're not acting reasonably, and do the same sort of documentation. And then call an attorney if you want to call us, or you want to get a referral to a local construction, lawyer. We can do that. The concept is to get educated and to assert your rights and protect your rights by documenting what's done and not done, because I think that encourages people to perform. I would not pay my vendors, my contractors, until they complete the work. In other words, I would pay them in stages as they complete leases of lien each time you complete the work, because if you don't get releases of lien, they can lien your property.
Scott Mager from Mager Peruis and the Storm Help Team, as always, fantastic hour. Thank you, buddy.
Hey, thanks so much for all you're doing for the community. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you soon. Have a wonderful weekend.
You're the best. Thank you, man. Bye-bye. There he is, Scott Mager from Mager Peruis and the Storm Help Team.
This is live and local morning radio. This is Kramer.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.